The grand throne room fell into a heavy silence. Not a single noble dared to breathe. King Aldrich's furious command echoed through the marble hall as royal guards slowly surrounded Rowan. Yet the young hunter did not reach for his bow. He simply stood there, calm, respectful. His eyes never left Princess Elena. She stepped in front of him, shielding him from the approaching guards. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I won't let anyone hurt him," she declared. The court gasped. No princess had ever defied the king before. Just as the guards prepared to seize Rowan, a frail voice interrupted. "Your Majesty." Everyone turned. It was Lord Cedric, the oldest royal advisor in the kingdom. His trembling hands clutched an ancient scroll sealed with the royal crest. "I beg you, before you pass judgment, there is something you must know." King Aldrich frowned. What could possibly be more important than this disgrace? Lord Cedric slowly broke the ancient seal. His eyes widened as he read the faded words. Then, he looked directly at Rowan. His face turned pale.
Your Majesty, 24 years ago, did not die. He is standing before us.
Rowan?
The old advisor spoke with a trembling voice. Your Majesty, 24 years ago, the royal family welcomed twins. The entire court froze. King Aldrich's expression changed instantly. Impossible, Lord Cedric continued. The second child disappeared during a terrible attack on the royal caravan. The king's hands began to shake. Everyone believed the infant had died. The advisor slowly lifted his eyes. But according to this record, the child survived. Every noble looked toward Rowan. The young hunter stood frozen, confused. Princess Elena stared at him in disbelief. "What are you saying?" The advisor whispered. "The hunter standing before us may be the lost prince." The throne room erupted into chaos. Before anyone could speak, a familiar voice echoed through the palace entrance. "He's telling the truth." Everyone turned. Standing at the doorway, covered in dust from the long journey, was Edgar, Rowan's father. He slowly walked toward the throne, carrying a small wooden chest wrapped in worn leather. Rowan looked confused. "Father, what's happening?" Edgar's eyes filled with tears. "I've hidden this secret for 24 years.
Everything the advisor has said is true. I found him as a baby, crying beside a broken royal carriage. I raised him as my own son."
Edgar knelt before the king. He carefully opened the old wooden chest. Inside lay a tiny golden crown, a faded royal blanket embroidered with the kingdom's crest, and a silver pendant bearing the royal family's symbol. King Aldrich's face turned white. "I remember these." Edgar lowered his head. "The night the royal caravan was attacked. I found a crying infant hidden beneath an overturned carriage. I waited for soldiers to return, but no one came. I believed everyone had died, so I raised him as my own son." Rowan could barely breathe. His entire life had been built on a secret.
Everything I believed about myself was a lie?
King Aldrich slowly descended from his throne, his eyes filled with tears. He stood before Rowan, not as a king, but as a father. His voice broke. "My son." Rowan stepped backward. "I don't understand. You raised another family while I grew up believing I was nobody." King Aldrich fell to his knees. "I searched for you for years. I never stopped. I failed you." The mighty king wept openly. Even the guards wiped tears from their faces.
Forgive me, my son. I searched for you every day.
Princess Elena looked from Rowan to Edgar, then to her father. She finally understood why fate had brought her into the forest, not merely to find love, but to reunite a broken family. She gently took Rowan's hand. "You were never just a hunter. You were always meant to come home." Rowan looked at Edgar. The man who had taught him kindness, who had fed him, protected him, loved him. "My father," he whispered. Edgar smiled through tears. "No matter what the truth says, I'll always be your father." Rowan embraced him tightly.
You'll always be my father.
And you'll always be my son. For the first time in 24 years, the royal family stood together again.
As joy began to return, a palace guard rushed into the throne room, out of breath. "Your Majesty!
Urgent news!
The Northern Kingdom has declared war. Their army has crossed our borders." The celebration vanished instantly. King Aldric's face hardened. The royal generals looked at one another. Thousands of innocent lives were suddenly in danger. The kingdom that had just found its lost prince was about to face its greatest battle. Rowan slowly picked up his bow. He looked toward the king, then toward Princess Elena. His voice was calm. "If this kingdom is truly my home, I will fight for it." King Aldric looked proudly at the son he had only just found. The throne room stood united, but beyond the palace walls, the drums of war had already begun to beat. The kingdom had found its lost prince, but destiny had no intention of giving them peace, for the greatest secret had been revealed. And now, the greatest battle was about to begin.
This kingdom is my home. Then I will fight for it.
The first rays of morning sunlight never reached the kingdom. Dark storm clouds covered the sky. From the northern hills came the thunder of thousands of marching soldiers. The ground trembled beneath the weight of horses, armored warriors, and enormous siege towers. Every citizen knew war had arrived. Inside the palace, King Aldric stood silently on the highest balcony. Beside him stood Princess Elena and Rowan, the hunter who had only just discovered he was the kingdom's lost prince. Today, he would fight not as a hunter, but as a protector of his people. The castle courtyard burst into life. Blacksmiths sharpened swords, archers filled their quivers, knights mounted their horses. The royal army assembled beneath the kingdom's banners. General Marcus stepped before the soldiers. "Today, we fight for our homes, our families, our children." The soldiers raised their swords. "For the kingdom!" Their voices echoed across the valley. Many soldiers looked uncertain. Some whispered among themselves, "Can a hunter really lead us?" Rowan heard every word. Instead of answering, he picked up a bow. High above the castle walls, he aimed at a tiny wooden target, nearly impossible to see. The soldiers watched. The arrow flew like lightning. It split the target in half. Silence. Then thunderous cheers erupted. General Marcus smiled. "I think we've found our leader." King Aldric turned toward his daughter. "You must remain inside the palace." Elena shook her head. "No, father. I won't watch innocent people suffer while I hide behind these walls. I may not carry a sword, but I can save lives." She gathered the palace healers and prepared medicines for the wounded. The king finally nodded. "Then may courage guide you." Without warning, the enemy war horns echoed through the valley. Thousands of arrows darkened the sky. "Shields!" General Marcus shouted. The castle gates shook as giant battering rams slammed against them. Catapults hurled burning stones over the walls. Explosions of fire lit the city. Citizens screamed. The battle had begun. Rowan climbed onto the castle wall. His voice rang across the battlefield. "Archers, wait!" The enemy cavalry charged. Closer, closer. "Now!" Thousands of arrows filled the sky. Enemy horses fell. The first assault collapsed. The soldiers stared at Rowan with newfound respect. The hunter had saved them. A frightened young guard ran toward Rowan. "My prince!" "They found an old tunnel beneath the castle." Rowan's face hardened. "If they enter through there, the palace will fall." Without hesitation, he gathered a small group of soldiers and disappeared into the underground passage. Torchlight flickered across ancient stone walls. Footsteps echoed in the darkness. Then, enemy soldiers appeared. The underground battle began. Above ground, The fighting grew fiercer. Edgar refused to stay behind. Although old, he fought beside the younger soldiers. During the chaos, an enemy commander raised his crossbow. His target was Rowan. Time seemed to stop. Edgar saw the arrow first. Rowan! Without thinking, he threw himself forward. The arrow struck Edgar in the chest. Rowan caught him before he hit the ground. No, no, father. Edgar smiled weakly. I told you, I'd always protect you. His hand slowly slipped away. The old hunter closed his eyes forever. Something changed inside Rowan. The grief became determination. He slowly stood, tears mixed with rain upon his face. He picked up his bow, one by one. Enemy commanders fell beneath his arrows. The royal soldiers followed him into battle, inspired by his courage. The battlefield echoed with one cry. For Rowan! The enemy lines began to crumble. Inside the palace, Princess Elena worked without rest. She bandaged wounded soldiers, comforted frightened children, helped exhausted mothers. One little boy looked at her. Aren't you afraid? She smiled gently. Of course I am. But courage means helping others even when you're afraid. The boy smiled and picked up supplies to help. As sunset approached, the enemy king's greatest general rode onto the battlefield. A towering warrior dressed in black armor. He challenged Rowan. So, you're the lost prince. Let's see if legends can bleed. The two charged toward each other. Steel clashed. Arrows flew. The duel seemed endless. Finally, the general raised his sword for one final strike. Rowan rolled beneath the attack, released a single arrow. It struck the general's shoulder. His sword fell. The enemy army froze. Their greatest warrior had fallen. The northern army sounded the retreat. Thousands fled across the valley. Cheers erupted throughout the kingdom. The battle was over. But Rowan did not celebrate. He walked slowly toward Edgar's body. He knelt beside the man who had raised him. The man who had loved him without knowing he was a prince. King Aldrich placed a hand upon Rowan's shoulder. He died a hero. Rowan whispered. He died, my father. Days later, the kingdom gathered for Edgar's funeral. Rich and poor stood side by side. King Aldrich himself carried Edgar's coffin. Princess Elena laid white flowers upon it. The people wept openly. The king addressed the crowd. This kingdom owes its future to a simple hunter who raised a prince and gave his life to save us all. Thousands bowed their heads. Scene 14. A shadow in the palace that very night. As peace slowly returned, a hooded figure slipped quietly through the palace corridors. He entered a hidden chamber beneath the castle. There, he lit a single candle. A mysterious voice emerged from the darkness. So, the war failed. The hooded man removed his cloak. It was General Marcus. He smiled coldly. Not completely. The king still trusts me. And soon, the throne will be mine. The candle flickered. A sinister laugh echoed through the chamber. The kingdom believed the nightmare was over. They celebrated victory. They honored their heroes. They mourned the brave, but hidden within the palace walls. A far more dangerous enemy remained, one who smiled before the king, while secretly plotting to destroy the royal family from within. Rowan had survived the battlefield, but his greatest battle was only just beginning.